Dating and being single and putting yourself out there can be a really fun experience, but only if you know how to go about it, if you know what to avoid and the red flags to look out for and how to protect your heart. Because I think if you don't know how to do those things, the dating world will eat you up alive and it's not going to be fun. So today, let's talk about that. I wanted to share my favorite dating rules and mindset shifts to help you navigate the dating world while feeling confident and empowered at all times. As always, if you enjoy my content, feel free to support it in some way, such as liking, commenting, or subscribing. Your support really helps for me to continue to create these episodes. Thank you so much. Even though dating and meeting new people can be really fun, I think it can also be challenging to navigate, especially if you are someone who is more sensitive. Maybe you crave closer relationships to people instead of surface level ones. Maybe you get in your head about things easily, or maybe you are just a lover girl at heart. If that's kind of how you operate, which I would say I do, then it can also be challenging. Whether we are just talking to people or meeting people or going on dates or actually dating people, those situations often don't come with the same level of security and safety and consistency that we can rely on in the closer relationships in our life, which again can be difficult if you are someone who craves or needs that more. Plus, on top of that, with the added element of online dating and social media, we are basically interacting with strangers, which is its whole situation in itself. And in that, you will meet amazing people who are totally in line with you, but that's not the hard part to navigate because there are so many different types of people in this world. You will also come across people who are totally not in line with you and what you're looking for. And then it's about learning how to navigate that and sift through that. And honestly, some people are also really just out here acting super dysfunctional, people who say weird, mean things, people who are dismissive, people who play games. Maybe you even get ghosted. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But some people can just be inconsistent and confusing, and it can just be a lot to navigate. And I think that's why it is so important that we go into all of this with the right mindset so that we can just pull the experiences that we want to have and not get affected by the rest of whatever chaos is going on. So from my experience, the most important thing when it comes to going into the dating world while feeling confident and empowered is to become really aware of how you interpret your experiences. It's all about the stories that our mind creates. Are you using those stories to reaffirm positive beliefs or negative beliefs? And let's talk about what that means. So for example, let's say you get ghosted. You're talking to a guy and out of nowhere, he just never responds back again. Sadly, a pretty common experience for a lot of people, and it's a shitty experience and that's valid. But how much that situation actually affects you is totally dependent on how you interpret the experience. And even though other people's behavior is never something that you can control, how you interpret the experience is something that you do have control over at all times. So option one is you use the situation to reaffirm negative beliefs about yourself and the world. So your mind goes in and says, he ghosted me because I did something wrong. He ghosted me because he thought I was boring. He ghosted me because nobody loves me. He ghosted me because he found someone better. He ghosted me because clearly no one can be trusted. In reality, you have no idea if those things are even true. So really, you are creating a story that you don't even have any evidence for, just to reaffirm to yourself that you are not good enough and that nobody wants you and things are not working out for you. But it's all based on your interpretation of the event and it has nothing to do with reality. So then option two is you use the situation to either stay neutral or even better, reaffirm positive beliefs about yourself. So you go in and say, okay, he ghosted me and that kind of hurts and I'm going to process that. But also, first of all, I don't know why he did that. There could be 100 different reasons. Also, I know someone else's actions are a reflection about how they feel about themselves and not a reflection of my value. Also, I know that I am a fun and great person. Also, I know that whatever is meant for me comes to me. So I definitely dodged a bullet anyways. Also, I do know that there are so many amazing people out there. Also, I do know that I trust life. And so maybe this is just another great opportunity for me to become even stronger in myself or in that knowing. And so suddenly you can feel that whole situation feels very, very different, even though it is the same situation that we're talking about. And this has nothing to do with being delusional or unrealistic, because there are actually studies that have found out that when our human brain is faced with a situation, we have the tendency to go more into the negative rather than the positive. It's called the positive negative asymmetry. There's a whole theory on it. You can look it up. But even though some people maybe experience that more than others, it is just kind of how our human brain is wired. And so especially when we are navigating the dating world, and so really we are interacting with people who we don't have close relationships with yet. And so really people whose behaviors and actions and words say nothing about who we are and what we are truly capable of. In those situations, it is so important that we are aware of the stories that our mind creates. It's so interesting how I think, especially as women, but maybe also just as people in general, we have this habit of falling in love with potential. It's when you go in and you say, okay, this is clearly not what I want, and this person is clearly not aligning with me right now, but maybe it could at some point. Maybe if I just put in some more work, or maybe if I just stick around long enough, this person could turn into who I want them to be. Whether that happens because we have created that idea in our own mind, or maybe we are dealing with someone who is actually trying to make us fall in love with their potential and a version of them that is not actually real. However it comes about, it is never a good idea. It's never something that ends well. Trust me, I speak from experience. Obviously, easier said than done. And so let's go over 2 simple but really important reminders, which I find so helpful when it comes to leaving this way of thinking behind. Number 1, ask yourself, whose potential am I really falling for? When we fall in love with potential, it's because some part of us actually thinks that that's real, even though it might not actually be. And this is something that I've really had to learn the hard way. But truthfully, if you think about it, when you are seeing someone's potential as a real possibility, even though it's not at all, or maybe not in this moment, really you are seeing what you would do if you were that person. You are seeing what you would do with their potential if you were in their shoes, which is not always what that person is actually going to do. I would like to think that every person has potential, truthfully, but potential is not what creates potential to become true. Those things are based on things like character, discipline, mindset, action, and all of those things are never things that we can truly control or change within another person without them wanting it first. So that's what we want to be focusing on. Number 2, your needs and standards are valid. I think falling in love with people's potential is also a very common experience for people who have experienced quote unquote toxic, or maybe better word, dysfunctional relationships for longer periods of time, because a lot of the time when you are in those types of situations, creating fantasy versions of someone is really the only way to hold on and not go insane, because it becomes the only way to create a false sense of hope that maybe things will be better one day, because they are not in this moment. I think especially if you are someone who has been through that, in that chaos, you might have actually started to believe that you don't actually deserve what you really want. You start to think that your needs are not valid. You start to think that it's normal to have to compromise your well-being. You start to think that it's normal to take on the other person's baggage and your own. You start to think that it's normal to have to continuously hope for things to change. it will start to make you think that that's just normal and that's all there is to life and that's what you have to go for. But if there's one thing I've learned is that that is so far from the truth. There are people out there who will match what you are looking for. And even though those people might not be perfect, because nobody is perfect, being with them will not ask for you to continuously hope or wish for things to change. But from my experience, we can only start to invite those types of experiences into our life if we start saying no to anything that is not that.